We are rolling. Life is weird out there, isn't it?
Yes, it is. If you've been to a grocery store, you understand just how weird it is.
And I have to let you talk more, I understand.
Yes. Microphone hog.
Last show we did together, I did the monologue, and you were
I'm just sitting here going,
you're podcast candy.
I wouldn't go that far. I'm just a bump and a lump on a log while you're yammering.
All right, so let's do a show here. From the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show. Episode 78. We're going to do some tech. This will be a medium low-tech podcast. Webcam tips. It is March 16th, 2020. I am Gary Pierce, and I am old and vulnerable here in this COVID-19 coronavirus-infused landscape. And you are my lovely wife, Cyndi Pierce. Hey, wait, the music is not supposed to repeat. You're a web conference pro.
Yeah.
What I thought we would do for this episode, I was kind of wondering what a useful public service might be that we could perform for the audience, other than to say life is weird out there. Because people are working from home, doing more web conferences, those who have the chance to do that, is to just do a few tips on how to make them a little bit better.
Sure.
I never do web conferences. I do podcasts.
You do podcasts, but you don't do it from a business perspective.
Yeah, but you do lots of them.
Lots of them. For many years. I was trying to think back at how long I've been doing virtual teleconferencing, and it's been probably at least 12 years, 13, back in the early days of WebEx. So, yeah, got a little bit under my belt. And for a long time, I was operations manager for a worldwide group of folks. So we would have probably about 8 people on a call, at least once, twice a week, from all corners of the globe. So there's lots of best practices I picked up along the way.
Okay. We're hearing a little bit of an echoey thing in the background because I got Skype on my phone to do a demo, and I can't turn the volume all the way down for some reason. So let me get rid of that
Google
part.
Thing?
Let me get rid of that part of the demo. The tips that I was going to have some simple camera tips and lighting tips and audio tips, and then we can talk about how you experience those things in the real world.
Okay.
And
it goes well beyond just camera, what's going on with the camera and lighting.
Okay.
When it comes to virtual meetings.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I have, I'm talking to myself on Skype on my phone here.
I didn't know we matched color. Look at that. We didn't coordinate. This was just like, he asked me 10 minutes ago, hey, you interested in doing something on virtual meetings? Sure.
Yep.
Because my virtual meeting just got canceled. So
even virtual meetings get canceled.
Be available. Yeah, they do.
All right, so this is the first thing I will point out, and this is just what I call like all too common in any kind of video chat, web conference, whatever, when people are using a laptop or their phone for their conferencing device. Oh, you got a new cat.
I do. Yeah, Batman.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Batman. And maybe he'll sit on the cat tree behind you.
Yeah, he might. Right now, he's a good lap warmer.
Yep. So this is the shot that irritates the hell out of me. I call it the
nose,
up your nose shot.
Up your nose shot, yeah.
And it's the result of having your laptop or your phone or your device just sitting on the table in front of you. Batman is coming over here to help out. Thank you for getting in the way of everything.
So that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm a cat.
Yes, okay, Batman, down you go.
let him do what he needs to do.
He's going to just lie down on everything.
That's okay.
But it's not okay. He's covering up my demo.
Okay.
Okay, so the phone is just sitting here on the table, and it ends up with the up your nose shot, which you as the sender are almost unaware of. You might have a little screen that shows it.
On any WebEx or Zoom meetings, you're going to have a screen. You can look at yourself.
Yeah.
And believe me, many times I've just gone, nope, not today. Stop the video.
But the up your nose shot is, I've done it to the extreme here, but I see plenty of them.
Yeah.
And there are some relatively easy ways to get around that. Just take whatever it is, your device, your laptop or your phone or whatever, and prop it up on something at about eye level. So I have an inconvenient box, and just set it up here at eye level. And isn't that
Much
more
better.
pleasant?
Yes, it is.
Okay. It's not going to stay because I don't have anything to hold it up. There are actually little mounts that you can put your phone on. There's little tripod mounts and a gooseneck arm.
Selfie stick type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of things you can do too.
Yeah. And most of the time, a lot of us have webcams, and you just have to position that ahead of time. Set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And you can get onto the Zoom or the WebEx application. You don't even have to be in a meeting and just kind of get things adjusted. I've got mine taped down at work as well as here in my office.
So do you see a lot of up your nose shots?
I do not, because most of us have webcams sitting on top of our monitors. The only time you see that is when somebody's in a conference room and they brought their laptop in. Then, you can get some up your nose shots.
And then the other thing that bothers me about using this as a device, especially if it's on a laptop, if it's on a damn lap, because then it's doing this.
If it's on a lap?
If it's on somebody's lap.
Oh, I've never
literally on someone's lap, and they're talking and it's bouncing.
Yeah.
And
they're kids.
It's all over the damn millennials. So, focus it down. The last thing I would say about the video that I can't really demonstrate very well because this room is lit like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Is when there's no light on your face, but you've got an open window behind you.
Yeah.
Or a lamp or something, and you go to silhouette. And
seen a lot of that.
Okay, so that's when you do see.
That's one of my pet peeves is the silhouette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So get a little bit of light in front of you, a desk lamp or something. It doesn't have to be right in your eyes, and it doesn't have to be directly in front of you. In fact, it's probably a little better if it's not directly in front of you. And off camera, 3 feet away or so, but something that will give you some light. And not the open window behind you.
No, that doesn't
The bright
work.
sunlight. You're not going to compete with the sun.
Nope.
The sun is going to win.
The other thing we starting to see more of is, I know in Zoom you can have this virtual background behind you, which
You bought a green screen.
I did.
You
Yeah,
haven't used it yet, right?
No, I haven't set up yet. I was waiting for probably next week when we have all of our virtual meetings with our customers that I'll do that. And I'll be sitting in the middle of Haleakala, which is a fun spot to be. But it's
a Hawaii volcano.
Yeah, that kind of picks things up a little bit in terms of interest, people paying attention. Because when you're talking out of the middle of a volcano, they probably notice.
It'd be cool for a minute. People say, "What?"
Yeah, well, it's a conversation starter.
Okay, so then the other thing, besides the picture. And perhaps even more important, I'm going to say definitely more
Mute
important.
button.
Okay, generally sound, of which the mute button will be a big part.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn off my professional microphone and talk through the phone, which is back in up your nose position. So now you are, listening to me through the phone. And I sound a little weird because there's a little delay. So I've got to take off my headphones so that I don't hear that delay and it doesn't screw me up. And that's
fairly terrible. The sound through the phone.
Yeah.
The actual phone, if you get it as close as I've got it, not too bad. If you've got it just on a webcam and it's a lot farther away, I'm doing the Kilroy.
That's another one I see a lot of.
Yeah, then the sound gets more and more hollow, more reverby, and
Just invest
we sound
in a
pretty
good,
bad.
good headset.
A good headset will help, and I'm going to now see if I can turn these Bluetooth earbuds on and have it take over my sound from my phone. I don't know if it's going to work.
That's the other thing that is annoying on a call.
Oh, feedback.
Yes.
So I don't know if this is going to.
No.
I think the feedback is coming from my headphones. So let's see.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think I have succeeded in getting the sound to come through the earbuds. And normally the microphone would sit about here, just a little below my face. It's a lot closer to my mouth. Put on your phones and see if you can hear. Does this sound better? Can you tell if it's any better?
In some ways it is, in other ways it isn't. But once again, this is the thing you should be doing before you get on a call with somebody is, one, adjusting your video, and two, you go ahead and create a WebEx or a Zoom with you just in it so you can record it and be able to hear what you're going to sound like. I've done that plenty of times. Especially,
you want to do a demo?
Demo.
A test.
I don't have Zoom or WebEx to do this with.
No. You want people to do an actual test.
Yes.
Find out if things are working.
Yes.
So I'm going to get rid of all of my irritating sound now.
Okay.
To my professional broadcast microphone.
Okay, Batman. Here. There you go.
Batman's stealing the show.
He is.
And I'm going to make the Skype thing go away here. So that little bit of sound in the background is now gone.
Thank you.
So the mute button. Tell me about the mute button.
God, where do I begin? First off, for the love of everything holy, please, when you get on a conference call, especially if you're at home, just go ahead and mute yourself. You can mute yourself from your phone. You can hit mute. You can also mute yourself within the application, whether that be Zoom or WebEx, because inevitably, when people are working from home, you're going to get one of two things. You can get the barking dog, which comes out of nowhere because if somebody comes near the house, they'll just go crazy. Or two, your child will come in and ask you something very embarrassing. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard...
Or your husband could wander in the back of the shot naked.
Well, that's true too.
That's not the mute button. That's not going to help that.
No, that's not going to help that at all. But it really is the kindest thing you can do to everybody on the call. And the more people you have on the call, a lot of times when they have really big groups, and I'm talking in excess of 20 to 30 people that are setting up that meeting, usually will have everybody come in on mute. And then you just have to know how to unmute it. But on the calls that I have with my customers once a month, they're very well behaved. So I don't automatically mute them, but I'm constantly sitting there while I've got the presenter talking, checking for where that background noise is coming. And luckily, some of the, like Zoom and WebEx, what happens is that person's name who's making the sound gets, if anybody's talking, they get moved to the top of the list. So you don't have to scroll around through 30 people trying to find out who it is. So they're slowly putting in these new features that allow the person who's managing the meeting to, mute people that that don't know that they're not on mute. So that's become handy too. But just please, unless you're talking, just go on mute.
This technology is not really difficult,
No.
but it does seem to be beyond people who just have not taken the I don't know, what, 10, 15 minutes to investigate it a little bit?
Well, it's a matter of being on enough calls and learning what can be annoying, like your cat walking through the shot.
Cats walking through shots, I'm going to guess, is popular.
Probably so. What you think, Batman? Yeah. So it just,
Well,
I guess for me, I run a lot of meetings, so I mean, I attend them too, but if you don't personally run a lot of meetings, you don't get to experience these irritations. And once you've done that, you become a very good citizen on the other end, is just a participant. So, but the mute button, absolutely, please just use it. The funny part is when you've muted yourself in two places. So you muted yourself on the phone, you've also muted yourself on the application, and you forget that you've got that. Yeah. So you got to help people and say, hey, mute.
For our audio audience, I was mouthing, talking,
Yeah.
and no sound was coming out,
Yeah.
which is what happened. I keep forgetting I got an audio audience that we have to cater to as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything to take your presence to the next level?
I like to encourage people to be on screen as much as possible. Because it creates that connection. Otherwise, I mean, I feel like I have to have a visual context to what's going on. So when I'm talking, I want to be able to see how other people are reacting. And if I'm trying, what I really have a hard time with is when I'm trying to break into a conversation, I can't quite get the timing right. I feel like I'm always talking over them, and I feel bad about that, but I need that visual context.
Yeah. Well, there is some latency too, a little bit. Not much
No,
anymore.
my problem is not latency. It's just bad timing because I can't see the other person. It's amazing how many hints and cues are given by a person as to when they're going to start talking or stop talking. Yeah, right. Or the ooh. So when there's plenty of times when, like if I'm working from home, I just have bad lighting in that room. So generally I won't be on camera. So what ends up happening within Zoom, I just pop a screenshot of just my face, a headshot, as we like to call it. So a lot of people are doing that. And when you have that situation, or you don't have any cue at all as to what the other person is doing. So as much as possible, just go ahead and get on the camera. And that way, conversations flow smoother that way.
Now, I was saying that people in general are uncomfortable being on video cameras.
Yeah.
And I was asking if it was sexist to say women are more uncomfortable.
No.
Because I
don't
know why.
Pretty much all men. All my customers are men. So, and like I was telling you, generally we'll have 30 or 35 people on a call, and only one or two of us are on camera, me and the speaker. I have a couple of guys that will get on camera, but most of them, no, they don't. And I don't know if it's just because they want to be able to multitask and not be called out on it. I know that I have to be careful. If you're on camera, don't insult the presenter by, fumbling around and not paying attention, because you can tell. And there's a lot of the Zoom and the WebEx can tell you when people aren't paying attention. So like when they go, yes, when you go and you select another application on your desktop, it'll tell them. Yeah, that was spooky the first time that happened. That was kind of spooky.
What does it do?
It tells the presenter that your eyes are off the screen, off the app.
Kind of like your car.
Yes. Yeah.
Which notices you're not paying attention to the road.
Yeah. Same thing, but it reports it back to the presenter. So just FYI.
Nanny cam.
It is. That's only in certain modes of Zoom and WebEx it'll do that, but just know that if you're in some sort of lecture where you're supposed to be paying attention, they can absolutely tell when you are off doing your email, you're off looking at some other, Chrome, whatever you're doing. So
people do that in live meetings all the time anyway.
They do, but not as bad as they do when you're sitting at your desk. Because believe me, there are times where somebody will say, hey, you're going to come down to the conference room for this. Like, no, I need to multitask. I'm being honest about it. But yeah, it goes on a lot. But when you're in a conference room with people, people are looking at each other, you're most likely not going to, especially if the expectation is that you shouldn't be. And there's a lot of meetings we've gone in and they'll say, okay, laptops down, no laptops, which is great. Because if one person starts to do it, everybody will start to do it. They'll start opening up the laptops or doing other things. So that just gets really annoying if you really need people's attention and participation.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you about just how human this thing gets, but I want to do one more little pro tech thing. And that is for really, really, really good sound, you can get a microphone like is what's in front of Cyndi right now. You don't want a microphone like in front of me. This is a $350 microphone. Mm-hmm. The microphone that's sitting in front of you is $65 on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It's and there's a bunch of mics in its class. This particular one is Audio-Technica ATR 2100. And I think they got a 2000, a 2100, and 2200. They're all about the same. Mm-hmm. What it does is, first of all, it sounds great. It sounds 95% as good as this expensive mic I'm talking into. This is a Heil. It's also a full sound card. You can plug it into your device, your laptop or whatever, by a USB. Mm-hmm. And you can plug headphones into the microphone. In the back, there's a little headphone jack.
Yep.
So it becomes a sound card. So great sound, and you can listen through it. And you can do all the other muting and stuff. There's a switch on it. It kind of clunks. You still want to do your muting on screen. But then you can sound podcast professional.
Yeah. I mean, if you can, that's great. But I know at work, we have the Cisco phone system, and I have a Jabra microphone with dual over the ear. And I'd been using that quite a bit, but the problem is in our building, you couldn't go like down to the break room or into the bathroom with them on because you'd lose contact. They're Bluetooth connected, so you got to test out the distance. So I've ended up using my AirPods, which I love, and quite frankly, they're pretty darn clear. When people are using them, they're pretty darn clear. And then there's a lot of folks that have a lot of the Apple laptops. And they do quite well, especially if you have a headset plugged into them. They're amazingly crisp and clear. I mean, I started asking people, wow, that really sounds good. What are you using? And that's another thing. Don't be shy to ask if you've got crappy audio, because there's nothing worse than somebody cutting out all the time. And this is one of those things you hear in meetings all the time. Hey, you're cutting out, can you move? Which... just kind of annoying. Yeah,
I was on a WebEx the other day, and I noticed that they have some fairly serious, what I call audio gating. And that is if your audio level, if your volume of your voice falls below a certain level, it falls all the way out.
Yeah.
It disappears completely. And if you are speaking down by that threshold level,
that's what I mean. That's when you start hearing people say, hey, you're breaking up.
Yeah. And the reason they have that is to eliminate background noise.
Right. Mute button. Okay. Remember, mute button.
Well, it'll eliminate fans, computer noise,
right.
Breathing.
Well, and a lot of times people take calls in their car, and that, I'm telling you, just go on mute. Unless you're talking, just go on mute.
Yeah, because that gating has a real hard time dealing with the rumble background noise of a moving car.
Yeah.
So, and I was going to show a camera, which I forgot to grab, but I think I got one here.
A webcam?
Yeah. So probably just about everybody's got a clue about some of these cameras, but this is
Logitech.
It's a Logitech. I think it's a C920.
Mm-hmm. Yep, looks familiar.
Yep, and just sits on
Well,
your...
it can sit on your monitor, but you end up having to tape it because depending on how much you tilt your monitor, it can fall off. So I would recommend just taping the thing.
Not had any trouble with them falling off.
Well, for me to get mine at the right angle, I have to tape it down. Yeah, that works pretty well.
Yeah.
Batman says, "What are you doing?" He's right behind. Yeah, there he is. You can see him. You okay there, bud?
So, and that's an awesome camera.
Yeah, it works very well.
They're practically broadcast quality for under $100. Mm-hmm. It's going to be better than just about anything that comes in your laptop. Might not be better than your phone, though. Surprisingly, the phones their video quality is really good.
But it's more awkward to try to have something that's holding your phone up all the time.
Yeah, if you get one of those little grabby things.
Yeah.
With a.
But I haven't seen anybody at work using that. I mean, if you're in your office, you've got a webcam.
Yeah. Plus, if you're going to use your phone, you better plug it in.
That too. Yeah, I've got
the battery will die.
Yeah, I switch between my phone and my AirPods carrying case all the time to get things charged up.
So now the humanity. You were talking about some of the conferences that you had canceled recently.
Yeah, everything.
And like most other companies, you had conferences scheduled.
Yep.
And the near-term ones anyway have all been canceled.
Yep.
And you talk with your partners about how you just don't get the same connection doing a web conference. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to improve the connection on the web?
Participate. Realize that you've got to step up. It's like knowing that you've got to talk directly into the microphone. It's kind of the same idea, is that you have to kind of go a step beyond what you usually would in an in-person face-to-face in order to connect with them. But one is be on that camera. Two is try to jump in and be a part of the conversation. That's really the key to it, is just trying to participate more than you usually would.
And I've been in lots of in-person meetings, one-on-one or small group, and web conferences and web chats, even once again one-on-one or small groups. I'm going to say that and all of the interaction is a little bit artificial, unless people really, really know each other real well. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter whether you're on camera or in person.
And that's what happens with our team meetings. We know each other so well. The only problem, once again, that I go back to is just not knowing when I can interrupt. It's harder to know when you can jump in. I feel like I'm being rude.
Yeah.
But
plus, the technology is not good when two people try to talk at once.
No, I've discovered that some people, their headsets, they gate it so they don't know that you're talking, and you get kind of irritated because you're like, damn it, why don't you hear me? I'm yelling at you. But I've got several people that must have headsets that don't let your voice through when you're talking, and they just keep rolling on. It's like, hello. But these are the people that are constant. There's no break. They're just.
There are people like that.
There are.
The interface technology, the Zoom, Skype, WebEx, they are not designed to have audio flowing both directions at once. They are pretty much designed for it one at a time. They switch back and forth seamlessly.
Yeah.
You don't hear it. But when two people are talking at once, it gets confused, and it gets bits and pieces of both and starts to chatter. And
trust me, it's like you got to back off. It's like dupe with ham radio.
No one knows what you mean.
Oh, that's right. You don't do that anymore. Okay. But anyway, you have to back off and let both people talk again individually.
And one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time, because otherwise you can't pick it up. No, that's true. And then there's also
is there any way to smooth that out? Because what happens is it's two people talk and they realize they're both talking and they stop.
Once again,
and then they both start talking.
Be
at the
on
same
camera.
Time.
Be on camera so you can get those cues. People don't realize it until you've had to do this a lot and you encounter that problem, is that you just don't have the cues to know when somebody's about to talk. So that's the best way to handle it, just be on camera. And now, too, the Zoom and WebEx have a lot of features where you can do, like, polling. So if you are with a big group of people and you need to ask a question, you can set up a polling question. You can also do, like, raise your hand. There's lots of little cute icons that you can use to indicate different things.
Yeah. They've got these little chat rooms attached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that too. There's chat.
And people start doing their own meeting in the chat room.
They do. Yeah, it's interesting.
Separate meeting.
Yeah, as a moderator that I do on a monthly basis with my customers, I've got to be watching not only who's got the open mic, the dog barking, or the kid asking crazy questions, but you also have this chat going on, and sometimes they'll be answering each other. Other times it's for the presenter, so you've got to, say, okay, I've got a question.
Sometimes
in the chat room.
it's irrelevant to the meeting.
Can be, but not with my guys. They're pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've whipped them into shape.
No, they're good.
They're just good.
They're good.
They know their stuff.
Yeah. They're professionals.
All right. So I think we've helped people out there who are just getting started with this stuff.
Yep. Be on camera. Use the mute button.
And you get comfortable with it after a while.
You do. You absolutely do. It took me a while because you know how much I love a camera in my face.
You've lived with a camera in your face for the...
I know, but I didn't like it in the beginning.
No.
It's just very uncomfortable. But it is. It's just, it's not the perfect way to communicate. I honestly think there's never going to be I better be careful about that. In my lifetime, I don't see it being virtual meetings being ever a substitute for in person. They're just the conversations that occur during a meeting, like you take a break, you go down in the hall, get a cup of coffee or something, and these spontaneous conversations happen. They don't happen in this virtual world because we're all kind of sitting in front of a camera. So until we go to the Sheldon model where they have, Sheldon on a monitor running down the hall. Whoops.
The telepresence.
No, not even telepresence.
Okay.
I mean, telepresence is just a better quality picture and sound. But beyond that, you're still sitting in front of a bank of screens in a room. You've got a camera pointed at you, and everybody gets their own individual screen. But when you get up and go wander down the hall to get your cup of coffee, nobody's there with you.
See, I'm wondering if that is going to be another level of this technology.
Right.
That you guys are your company and many other companies. All these meetings that have been canceled, they're actually not canceled. They're finding ways to virtualize them.
Oh, yeah.
But will there be a way to virtualize the out of meeting?
Sure.
I can think of some ways to,
you can do it to a certain extent.
Using the little chat, to set up something where you click on somebody else and say, let's talk after this meeting, and the technology automatically sets them up with a one-on-one.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that it's not the planned conversations that are important and that can lead you in very different directions. It's just the walking side by side down the hall, making conversation, and then you bring up something that wasn't planned. It was just, hey, have you heard about blah? And then you get into a conversation. Oh, yeah, so-and-so's doing that. You should really talk to them. This is the kind of stuff that doesn't happen in a more forced, formal place where I know I've got to sit here and the camera's looking at me and I've got a microphone here, so I got to stay put. It just doesn't give you that freedom to have things spontaneously happen. And the only way I ever see that is if everybody's walking around with, Google Glass or whatever it's going to be. And that when you, quote, leave a meeting to go on a break, you still have everything on and you're still available. Will that ever really work? I don't know. But until then, meeting in person is still the best way to communicate. Because we always say when our team has been virtual. For a while, I was just the only person here in RTP. on my team, everybody else on the West Coast, and even they're working from home because they live in Silicon Valley, and who wants to spend 2 hours in their car each way each day? So they work from home. But when we get together physically in one room somewhere, boy, do we get a lot of stuff done. It's so much more productive. This virtual stuff is going to help fill the gaps of when you have a situation like coronavirus and everybody's got to work from home. I got to work from home for the next 2 weeks per company policy. But believe me, you get more stuff done sitting there looking at each other than you ever will through the camera. I'm just sorry, old person talking. Yeah, was it Hey Boomer?
Well, okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there may be improvements. There may be things added. Maybe virtual reality. Maybe holograms. We're
Right, when
long distance to future.
Yeah. When it's holograms, then I think we're going to get it. We're going to get close as we can get without being in person. But until then, I'm still a big fan of, I want to see you eyeball to eyeball in the same room. And you go out to the dinners afterwards, get a little bit of alcohol in you. And trust me, lots of things happen at the bar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of productive conversation that goes on there that's just not going to happen in
I
a
started
virtual meeting.
I started recording a conference, technical ham radio
Yeah.
conference,
Yeah.
back around 2008, and they invited me, and I was happy to do it. And the question was always hanging there. Well, since people can see this conference now, initially by a DVD, eventually it was online on YouTube. If people can come see the conference presentations, will they come in person?
Yes.
And more people started coming in person.
Yes. Yeah.
In part because they saw how good the conference was on the video,
Right.
and realized, because I have plenty of shots of the audience, look at all these people I want to be able to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we're done with the COVID-19, the stuff will come back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do a mini cancer update.
Okay.
It's been 5 weeks out since the last chemo. It was the very end of January.
Chemo was on January 31st.
Yeah, it's almost 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
So I should be starting radiation anytime soon.
Anytime. I mean, literally anytime now this week, I hope.
Just waiting for an approval from our
Insurance.
private insurance company.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up with maybe it was a lung infection, maybe it's just inflammation.
Yeah.
That as I was looking forward to feeling great for the last half of February, this last 2 weeks of February, I was looking forward to feeling great. Instead, I felt terrible. I could barely talk.
Yeah. It was, that was a bit concerning.
Yep. So we went, in fact, to our...
Maybe you had the coronavirus.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
You didn't have a fever.
No fever. Right.
Yeah.
So we went to a consultation with the radiation oncologist, and his nurse was worried I was going to fall out.
Yeah, she was. She was really worried about you.
I was, at peak coughing and wheezing.
Yeah, I knew it. I mean, I know you're normal, and even I was concerned because it was just so much over the top from what it can be, even on its worst days. That's the worst I've ever heard you in the entire time I've known you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I get that way after I've had a cold, or maybe the flu.
That was worse.
But yeah, but it was lasting longer. It wasn't going away.
Yeah.
So the nurse booked me an appointment with a pulmonologist. I went
It
there.
was great. She pops out of the room, makes the appointment, comes back in, like service. Love it.
Yep. The coolest thing about all of that, was that I'd had a PET scan, and a PET scan from eyes to thighs.
Yep.
So it crossed my lungs, and the radiation oncologist noticed a little shadow in my lungs. Mm-hmm. It was barely above the gray background level of the stuff that wasn't showing up. It was just a slightly lighter bit, and just a small area. And looking at just the right layer of the scan, and said, "Well, there's not really enough to tell me what's going on there, but it's there." I was thinking, okay, well, I'm going to tell the pulmonologist that I had this PET scan. Maybe you want to take a look. And I was imagining her saying, "Oh, it's going to take me forever to pull up the PET scan and to find it." She already saw it. She already knew.
This is how it should have been 10 years ago.
Yeah, somebody had clued her in to say, look at this PET scan.
Well, they're all on the Epic system, so she's got everything at her fingertips to be able to see that.
Epic is the online system that UNC
Medical,
Rex is using.
yeah.
And probably a lot of other hospitals.
A lot. It's the giant gorilla in the room in terms of that type of application.
It has an interface for us, the consumers, but evidently it's got a lot more behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
So she already knew.
Yep.
She saw it. She said, again, it doesn't tell me whether it's an infection or just an inflammation. So without worrying about anything else, she treated both. For the inflammation, a little prednisone.
Yoo-hoo.
For the infection, an antibiotic, just in case.
You're off the antibiotic now, right?
Yeah, that was just a few days worth.
Okay.
It was a short course.
Okay.
And the last prednisone was this morning.
Oh, okay.
So
you and the cats. Everybody, prednisone for everybody in our house. Yeah. How many? 2 cats and you have prednisone. Okay.
Good stuff.
It is.
It was a much lower dose than what I was getting during the chemo, so it wasn't amping me up too much.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling human again.
Working out. Starting to work out.
Yep. I've had the leg mold.
Yep.
And the dry run of the radiation. So I lie down on this bed, and the machine is over me, and my legs go into this mold, so I'm always in the same position. And now we're just waiting for the approval to actually go save my life.
Yeah.
The thing about what the stage we're at now is the last PET scan didn't detect any cancer.
Right.
And to review briefly, I'm stage 1. This was a stage 1 lymphoma. It was caught early. Got that lump in my leg that blew up like to the size of an egg.
This doesn't look right.
Yeah, something wrong here. I showed it to you, and you said,
I was like, get yourself to a doctor.
Yeah, which I did. And, so off to the first thing was an ultrasound. And everybody said,
probably nothing.
Doesn't look right, but yeah, it's probably nothing to worry about. We'll go to a surgeon. We need a biopsy.
Yeah.
Surgeon takes out the lymph node, says, well, just, we'll
check.
Go biopsy this, but it's probably nothing. Calls up, you got cancer.
Yeah.
You're a cancer boy.
Yeah.
But caught early, stage 1, totally curable.
And you were talking about the fact that this last PET scan showed really nothing.
Right. So
but
the doc was...
It doesn't mean that there's not any cancer there. So explain what that's about.
The doctor was telling us that the PET scan can see clusters of cancer cells in the tens of thousands, but not in the just thousands. That's below the detection level.
Yeah.
So it could still be there, and they want to make sure that it's totally eradicated.
That's why they do the radiation.
Yeah. So the chemo knocked it from visible to invisible, and the radiation is just the last step.
Just in case.
And that's all based on not speculation. It's based on history.
On years and years of data that tell them that that's what they should do. Yep. So that's kind of, it's very much in your favor, is that you've got all these, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that have been through treatments that they've just really perfected it in so many ways. It's amazing how different it is.
And that'll just be another data point.
Yeah, that's okay. That's good. It's good to be data. It's good data.
I want to do a show that is called Show Me the Money.
Oh, God, yeah, we will. Let us get to the end of this when we've got the biggest bills out of the way, and then we'll do that because it's pretty darn amazing.
But we can tell you that each chemo treatment was over $60,000. Of which we had 3. Just the chemo. Just the drugs.
Not giving you the chemo, just the drugs hanging in the little bags or in the syringes. Just those.
Yeah. And at some point, for some reason, I was thinking somebody told me the Rituxan was like $5,000. No. 50 or more.
There are 4 or 5 different drugs, and I don't know that we ever got it broken down by how much each drug is. I'll have to look that up and see if
I don't think it did. I don't think it just the chemo.
I'll have to see if I can find that breakdown if there ever was one. But yeah, and then you run into people while you're there doing chemo. They're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years. You're like, whoa.
Yes, I have discovered that almost everybody I know at one point or in their life or not has had cancer.
Yeah.
And there are people that we know who didn't make it. There was one person who was responding to the things I was putting online, and I was looking at the stuff she put online, who died just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And you feel bad. I mean, when we were in the chemo room, I felt kind of guilty. I mean, I don't know why I was feeling guilty, but I'm just saying, you're stage 1. I mean, there's people in there that probably aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
So it's really a very interesting situation to be in, because everybody has cancer, but everybody's in a different place with that cancer. And we didn't talk a lot to people because, you were usually sleeping and I was working. So there wasn't a lot of conversation that went on with other people. But I suppose
you're not that close to each other. You can talk, but
yeah, but you're pretty close to people. But everybody's kind of in their space. Most people have somebody with them, and
a little more chatter as things are getting set up, and a little less when the drugs are going in and everyone's going.
Well, yeah, because when you've got the Benadryl and such thrown at you, then you start to just kind of nod off. Most people seem to in there.
Yeah. So I've had people tell me about their radiation experiences, and it runs the gamut from it totally wiped them out to just a little sunburn.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's going to affect me.
We're going to find out.
We'll find out.
Yep.
So I'm glad to squeeze out a little podcast here. All right. We have solved all the world's problems. We have enough toilet paper here in the house.
We do.
We did not go hoard toilet paper in advance. We already had our standard stock.
Yeah.
Enjoying going by the Harris Teeter and seeing the empty shelves.
No, it's getting out of hand. It's getting way out of hand.
The toilet paper part has got to end pretty soon, because
everybody should
be have enough for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then
we're fortunate. We're only buying for 2. I think about all these, most people have families, and there's a lot, pretty big difference there between 2 and 4 or 2 and.
And think of the institutions, restaurants, businesses, they got to stock their bathrooms. And if they're not,
Yeah, bring out the menus.
Yeah. But what is what has turned people into hoarders? The entire.
This we could go. Yeah, I don't know if we want to go down that road, because I'm hungry. I want to go get dinner. It's after 5.
Okay.
But we can. Yeah, we can.
We're going to support our local takeout Chinese.
And I do. I want to support the local restaurants and such, because I know they're probably feeling that. But then again, people are going to be, if they can't. I cannot find meat. Now, there was some beef in Whole Foods, but your standard grocery stores, no, the meat has been cleaned off the shelf for days now. So, we're going to go ahead and get takeout Chinese tonight.
I guess the last thing I want to say about it is that everyone is concentrating on the numbers of confirmed cases. And the smart people that I'm listening to are saying, pay no attention to the number of confirmed cases. We have no idea how many real cases there are, but it's way, way higher than that.
Absolutely.
The numbers we need, and it's based on the testing that is just beginning to get done now, is the number of suspected cases. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be way higher. And
I'm more concerned about how many people are dying.
Yeah, that too.
Not as much so as who's getting it. It's just, how many, what.
Well, that'll be a factor, a percentage of the folks that actually get it.
Yeah. Or just total number. Just want to see a comparison of, flu to, but anyway, I'm not going down that road.
Life is going to continue to be weird for weeks, maybe months.
Yeah.
And we've never seen anything like this.
Nope.
So we'll see. Life as we know it is not the same.
Nope.
Okay. End of the podcast. I am Gary Pierce. I am still old and vulnerable.
Yes, you are.
You are Cyndi Pierce.
Only slightly less old.
Considerably less old.
10 years.
10 years. And Web Conference Pro, we appreciate your expertise.
Mute. For God's sakes, mute.
This has been episode 78. It's been Tech. Webcam Tips, March 16th, 2020. Goodbye, everybody. Over.
And out.